Cubs made a trade for Tom Cosgrove. He is a Padre. He was really good in 23, 24 bad, minor leagues again this year, trying to find it again. Maybe not quite the velocity he had, and someone the Cubs hope they're able to resurrect to help them in the bullpen with Thielbar struggling, Luke Little not there. They need left-handed help, and they need it bad. That's not what the point of this show is, though. I mean, we're going to talk about that. But the Core-4, it's evaluating the trades of those 4 players that helped the Cubs win the World Series. You're going to say to me now, there were only 3 trades. I know, you're right. We're going to get into all that, though. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. Let's get this thing started. And great to see you guys today. Go Cubs. What do you say, everybody? Mick Gillespie, Cubs Baseball Channel. It is great to see you guys today. Thank you for being here for the show as we talk Cubs baseball on a daily basis. All right, let's get into this right off the bat. Here's the deal. You guys know this already, right? Tom Cosgrove is a Padre. He had an amazing season. I mean, really good 2023 season. Someone that you had to pay attention to because it was so good. And then after that, like, he's just fallen off. And basically was someone that was in the minor leagues. It wasn't really contributing a whole lot. And the Padres felt like, hey, you know what? We can give this guy up. And they did so. And it's a trade for cash consideration. So it's not like the Cubs are really even getting a whole lot for the 28-year-old. Drafted by the Padres in 2017. He was added to the 40-man roster 22-23 season, and then had a really good ability to miss bats. Came to the major leagues, and in 51 in the third innings in 23, had a 1.75 ERA. His walkout to strike rate wasn't fantastic, but he got the job done. And, last year he gave up 19 runs in 14 2/3 innings, and that was over 18 appearances. And his exit velocity was down, and that got him put in the minor leagues, and so he went to AAA and he didn't get the job done there either. And so you look at him and you're like, man, this is not going the way that we think it should go. And that's where he was going to start this season. So he didn't break camp with the team after spring training. And then after that, he wasn't doing well in AAA. And you know what? The Padres were like, hey, you know what? We'll make a deal. And then on the Cubs side of things, they designated Caleb Killian for assignment. And that's kind of why we got to the point where I felt like talking about this on the show today. Killian, 27-year-old right-hander, just never seemed to find himself in the Cubs organization. He was fantastic when he was a Giants minor leaguer, a 9.22 ERA in 27 1/3 innings. That's not going to get you there. And he walks a ton of batters. He's got good stuff, but he hasn't really been able to find himself for AAA seasons, a 4.37 ERA. And a strikeout rate that's not, I don't think it's too bad, 21.8%. But this day and age, you got to strike out way more than that. But that wasn't even it for me either, because I get what's going on here. This is, okay, the Padres are going, we know this guy's got something. He hasn't gotten the job done. He hasn't figured it out, and we're going to trade him. Or we're going to get rid of him. We don't want him on the roster. We can use that roster spot for someone else. And the Cubs are looking at it and going, where in the world can we get somebody to help us from the left side? Because this bullpen is going to cost us. They already have. And I've said it on this channel. If you got to give this bullpen more than 6 outs, you might not win the game. And I mean, the starters got to pitch you 7 innings so that you can cut it down to 6. I know they went out and redid the entire bullpen with only Julian Merriweather returning. Compared, when you talk about who was on in the bullpen at the beginning of last year to start the season, Porter Hodge. I mean, I believe in him, but I don't know that he's a shutdown closer. And you don't have very many options. Caleb Thielbar, it just hasn't looked good at all. And the Cubs have to figure out what they're doing. They don't have enough options in the minor leagues. And so you make a deal, and basically, to me, it's Cosgrove in and Killian out. But with Killian leaving, it kind of opens up this window to me to talk about the trades that the Core-4 got from the Cubs. So who are the Core-4? Well, you know who the Core-4 are. Anthony Rizzo, Chris Bryant, Javi Baez, and Kyle Schwarber. Well, Schwarber wasn't traded. This was one of the worst moves that the Cubs made, and they non-tendered him in December of 2020, and they basically, during COVID, they didn't feel like they wanted to pay him. They didn't think his career was going to pan out, and they made a bad assumption. And they've come back and said this. But these are the kind of mistakes that you can't make. You can't give away someone that in the postseasons like the Bambino himself. I mean, go look at this guy you guys already know. What a bad decision. And who knows what the internals were on all of this stuff. But, at the end of the day, you gave away a player that every postseason team would love to have. Now, where would the Cubs have played him? Look, I would have rather had Schwarber in left field over the last whatever many years compared to Happ. And I mean, I know he doesn't have the batting average or the on-base percentage, although he does walk a lot. He hits a bunch of home runs. He's a threat in the lineup, though. And I'm not saying I wouldn't want to have both guys, but you didn't get anything for him. So that was the first guy. Non-tendered, walked away from him, and everybody in baseball was probably going, what are you doing? And I think even this front office has to admit that. I think they have. So Kyle Schwarber, you didn't get anything for him. Okay, the next trade. Let me go to the Chris Bryant trade. July 30th, 2021, the Cubs traded Chris Bryant to the Giants in exchange for Alexander Canario and Caleb Killian. Killian, right-handed starter, was tremendous when the Cubs got him from the Giants. When I saw him come up through the system, it felt like they just couldn't figure out how to get the best out of him. And they were doing this thing where guys were pitching 4 innings. He's never in the games. He got to AAA probably before he was ready to do that, then to the big leagues, then to AAA, and he just never had any growth. Is that player development? Is that scouting? I don't know. But there was certainly a failure there because this guy had really, really good stuff. And a player that I'm sure San Francisco didn't want to give up, but they did. And now we'll find out where he goes. If he throws 98, which I'm pretty sure he does still, somebody's going to pick him up. And you wonder what's going to happen with him moving forward. And the other guy on here, Alexander Canario, the Cubs gave away. They decided to take 40-year-old Justin Turner, who still is out there playing, and I like him. He's a good clubhouse guy, and I like the beard, and I like the presence. But then you see him, he can't catch a throw to first base because he's 40 years old, right? And then you say, well, maybe it's not because he's 40. No, it's because he's 40. I mean, like at 35, he makes that catch. I'm getting old. I know how it is. Like your body isn't the same when you're in your 40s as it is when you're in your 30s or in your 20s. Canario has a high strikeout rate. I know that, but he's got tremendous power. We saw it last year when he had that huge game for the Cubs. This is a risk. You saw what he did for the Mets after the Cubs designated him. The Mets made a deal to get him. And he's turning some heads, so his career is still fairly young. He'll be back hitting some home runs. This could be a guy that comes back to haunt the Cubs. I don't know. But for Chris Bryant, they got 2 guys that aren't in the organization anymore. And that means that they really didn't get anything for Chris Bryant. There were a bunch of teams back then that wanted Chris Bryant. I know that KB, as much as we all love him, hasn't been a very productive player since his days with the Cubs. But I certainly wish him the very best. But at that point, they didn't even know that he was going to be as bad as he is now. So you can't go off of what the Rockies have by signing him to that big deal. You just got to go off of what he did before that. A former, MVP, Rookie of the Year, World Series champ, and you got nothing in that deal. So, okay. Then this one right here. Now I'm going to the other side now. Javi Baez traded to the Mets with Trevor Williams and cash for Pete Crow Armstrong. Pete's in the big leagues. I call him Hollywood Pete. If you would have gotten Pete Crow Armstrongs in all these deals, you'd feel really good about where these trades lead you. But he's in the big leagues. He's been a tremendous defender. He's probably going to win a Gold Glove this year. When he gets on base, he's just wreaks havoc on the opposition. Still got to do better as far as the batting average. Still needs to make better contact. But I feel pretty good about this one. We'll see where it ends up. And then look at Baez. He went to the Mets, didn't work out there. And then he went to the Tigers, and it didn't work out there. And I'm curious to see how it turns out. I mean, the only highlight I saw of him was taking a ball off of his head during spring training. So the days of El Mago are gone. So I'm going to give this one to the Cubs. Right now anyway. I feel like Pete Crow Armstrong is embedded in the future of the franchise. And then the last one is one where I feel like we're still kind of out there with it. July 2021, Cubs trade Anthony Rizzo to the Yankees and get Alexander Vizcaino, a right-handed pitcher, and Kevin Alcantara, an outfielder, both minor leaguers. All right. So the Cubs declined to offer Vizcaino a contract 2023. He's gone, out of the way. And then you got the Jaguar, Kevin Alcantara, that's his nickname. He's a center fielder. He's kind of this Dave Winfield guy to me, real long, but you can't get inside on him. Like he's good at, like, even though those guys with the long hands, you try to get it in on them and they can't hit. He can. He's good at inside out in the ball. He's young. He is someone who is still trying to grow up. He got to the big leagues last year. He was impressive in spring training. I loved it when Sammy Sosa said, hey, man, this guy might have a pretty good career ahead. I hope he does. But look, if you want my personal opinion, I'm not sold on Alcantara. I like him, but I'm not sold on him. He's not like PCA where you look at him and see him being a part of the future for a long time. He's a guy that I think still has to develop. He's still got to grow up. He's got to get better at being consistent. He's very streaky. His defense on anything that's hit deep over his head, he looks like he's going to trip over his own feet, so he's got to get better at going back on balls. He plays center field, but I see him more as a corner outfielder. We'll find out if that's the case, or he gets better on the deep balls. His game's got some holes, but he's got a lot of talent. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up out of the organization. And I wouldn't be surprised if somebody got hurt and he came up and he did well. I feel like he's kind of right on that cusp. So all in all, right now, when you look at these trades, it's Pete Crow Armstrong. You got Pete Crow Armstrong. So now, can I say today, definitively, a win or a lose? This front office is under a lot of pressure. And if I was evaluating them, if Tom Ricketts came to me and said, hey, what do you think? I'd have to be pretty honest and say, I don't know. I don't think we're there yet to the point where we can say failure or success. It was a failure to get rid of Kyle Schwarber. The Chris Bryant trade is certainly a failure, and that's either a failure on your scouts for the people that you took in the trade or the development of those guys, but they're both out. You didn't get anything for them too. Which is also sad, and that's the one criticism I have of this front office is when these guys had value, you didn't take advantage of it. You have to, as a front office and as an organization, evaluate your guys and move them out before everyone else figures that they can play or they can't play. But if you hold on to them too long and they can't play, you get nothing for them. And that's kind of how this feels to me with that Chris Bryant trade. But I give them the look. I really feel good about the Javi Baez trade because you got Pete Crow Armstrong back, and there is not a more exciting player in the game right now than Pete Crow Armstrong when it comes to just getting on base, making things happen in the outfield, the way he attacks the ball in the outfield. But he's still got to hit more. He's still got to prove himself over the course of 162 games. But I like where he's at. And then the other trade, I wouldn't want to put my paycheck on Kevin Alcantara, but he's got talent. And that's the part about making deals like this that's so difficult. But what do you guys think? That's just my opinion. What do you guys think? Do you think the Cubs won or lost these deals? Is this what you expected to get back from the Core-4? Some of you guys have emailed me. Some of you guys have inboxed me and you wanted my opinion on this. My opinion is that we don't know yet. But if I was evaluating it right now, I'd say, of the four, the Cubs are, 1, 2, and 1. 1 win, 2 losses, and then right now a tie because we just don't know. And if Pete Crow Armstrong becomes an all-star, if he becomes a perennial player and somebody that's really good, I'd be willing to say, hey, man, depending on how well he does, I might give you all 4 and say he's good enough that makes up for all of it. We got to find out. But that's where we are right now. Now, one other thing I wanted to talk about before we got off here, and we'll keep looking at this. Reports are out that the Cubs are trying to talk long-term deal with Justin Turner. I think this is a great idea. I think that this is exactly what they need to do. If they can sign this guy long-term, build the organization and the franchise around him, don't let him go out there. He's going to make a ton of money. Cubs need that face. You gave away a bunch of guys to get him, but if you sign him and he becomes the player, if he just continues to be the player that we know he is over the course of whatever his contract is, it'll be well worth it. So, there you go. And we'll talk more about that. Cubs are playing the Dodgers tonight. I'm recording this video, guys, before the game. It's a 9:40 game, and I wanted to do this specific show. So, we're not going to talk about the game because I hadn't seen it yet, but hopefully they take care of business against the Dodgers. Like, subscribe, get in the comment section. Thank you for being here as always, and we will do it again tomorrow. And I'm honestly like, the last thing I want to say is I'm happy that this front office has a sense of urgency, because there's no sitting back anymore and going, hey, you know what? Caleb Thielbar stinks, and we're just going to sit here and ride with him. It's like, look, I don't know what we can do, but let's do it. And I think that could help this team down the road. And you know what? Maybe they find something in Cosgrove, because I remember him from a couple years ago, and he was dynamite. So he's proven that he can do it. He's just got to figure out how to do it again, and maybe they put him in the pitch lab. But thanks for being here, guys, and go Cubs.